And thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate everybody's patience as we're working through the issues with the Zoom bombers. Hopefully this is something that gets addressed and doesn't continue to be a problem for us and for others as well. But as entrepreneurs, whenever there's a problem, that's always the potential for opportunity. So we pay attention to things like this and think, is there something we could do there? So at any rate, we're so happy to have you all here today. We will be sharing a survey with you, and that survey will be listed in the chat. We'd love it if you could give us some feedback on the workshop near or at the end of the workshop. We're also going to be sending you a video, and the video is a recording of several of your professors, of various industry leaders, entrepreneurs, who we also surveyed about etiquette for entrepreneurs and issues that they've had with breaches of etiquette. So it's a great video. We'll be sending that out. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough time to do everything and show that to you here today. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, either make sure to unmute yourself for the question, or you can put them in the chat and we'll address the questions there at the end. And ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right, so next slide, please. I'll introduce myself. Most of you do know me. My name is Tanya Hertz. I'm the director and founder of the Rec Innovation Lab at San Diego Miramar College. And with me today is Karen Flagg. And Karen is one of the student entrepreneurs, the founders of a company here at the Rec Innovation Lab. And she is, she's really, we should have those flipped on the slide, because she's really the driving force behind this workshop today. But when she approached me about this, it was just after I had left a business advisory meeting, and we meet with each other twice a year for the school's business advisory meeting, and more than half the time was spent at that meeting talking about etiquette issues. They were so this was such a big topic for the all of the advisors and the business owners, the managers of companies, the people who help us to build the business department. They noticed it. We noticed it. A lot of people have been bringing this to our attention. So we thought it's time for a workshop. So next slide. Oh, Karen, no, Karen, also please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Well, thank you everybody for being here. I'm really happy you guys are all here. Today, we're going to talk to you a little bit about writing, dressing, speaking, and charming your way into the entrepreneurship industry. As Tanya told you, I am a student founder here at the Rec. My company is called Trendbook. It is a social media platform for all estheticians to be educators, providing affordable continuing education while having jobs that are virtual for a physical-based industry. I also run a consulting company where I help people with their skin, and I am a co-host of a podcast called Your Skin Podcast. So skincare and skincare industry is kind of my thing, and a lot of that has to do with etiquette. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys today, and hopefully we can keep it nice and fun. But I'm sure there's going to be some things here that'll surprise you. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in, and we're going to start with
written etiquette. So I do want to just expand a little and say that by no means are we trying to sound preachy or tell you how to behave. But I will say this at the same time: business etiquette, this is just another way of saying, do you have the necessary soft skills for to be successful in business? Now, we get these skills a number of different ways. We get them through experience and we get them through education. And so all of us make mistakes from time to time, every single one of us. But by keeping an open mind, by really taking opportunities like this to learn what the right thing is, we can, as much as possible, eliminate those errors, or at least reduce them so that we don't see them happen quite so often. So we're just talking about developing these soft skills. Now, the first is written communication. This is always an issue. This comes up as one of the top 10 skills that employers are looking for and looking for improvements in when they're hiring recent graduates. There are rules of written communication in business. They're not the same as writing in English or in other types of writing that you might do. And so you need to make sure that when you're sending a business email or a letter or a text, any kind of business communication, you follow the rules. The number one golden rule is keep it clear, concise. So to the point and short, right? 50 to 80 words per paragraph is the rule of thumb. Never over 100 words in a paragraph. You don't put long run-on paragraphs. We left justify. That means there's no indentations at the beginning. You use deductive writing. That means you start with the key idea and then you follow it up with support. You never make people try to figure out what you're getting at. You tell them immediately. You use the active, not the passive voice. So the active voice would be something like, let's see, Ethan came to the workshop, rather than the workshop was visited by Ethan, right? That's the passive voice. We never want to use convoluted types of writing or passive writing. Only text people in business if they initiate the text, particularly if you're texting somebody who is above you in the organization. You can text a supervisor if they text you first. Keep your text short. There are times for an email and times for a text and times for a call. Don't ever text somebody outside of business hours unless it's extremely urgent. And really, in general, texts are more appropriate for people at the same level than really your supervisor, depending on that supervisor. Avoid reply alls or extensive emails or written communication. Always just keep it short, keep it to the point. We get too many emails, we get too many messages in a day. Business professionals on average get over 100 emails a day. You can help to eliminate this and keep the mental load down. And also remember, every time you're communicating in written form, particularly, that's your chance to build your reputation or just destroy it. So take it as a chance to build it. Proofread, don't send anything without errors, and you'll be good. So in the writing process, rule of thumb, plan, write, review. It's a 3-step process. A lot of people kind of miss that planning and the reviewing before you ever hit send. Next slide, please. The majority of time really should be spent in the planning and the review process. When we look at research, we see that good writers actually spend less time writing than bad writers. So the reason they spend less time writing is because they spend more of their time planning, analyzing what they're going to be writing, and then reviewing what they're writing. You get faster and faster at writing the more that you do it. And you should seek to reduce the amount of time that you're spending writing. And you do that by practice and by reviewing and planning. Next slide, please. Online communication.
Online communication. So writing, of course, like Tanya was saying, really plays all heavily into online communication. So I want you to think Zoom, Slack, email, text, social media, that all falls under the online communication. So how do we integrate etiquette into an online experience? So I know Tanya was talking to you a little bit about the facts, but I want to get into kind of the soft skills. Well, when you're writing or talking online, have a sense of respect. Avoid the ghosting culture that's super popular amongst Gen Zs and millennials. For those of you who don't know, basically ghosting is you just don't write back. And in the business world that's not professional, you really want to make sure that you're replying no later than 24, maybe 48 hours if you really are busy that day. But if you know it takes you longer to respond, if it takes you longer than 24 hours, take the initiative to implement an automated email, because that in itself is just letting them know that you're going to get back to them. And secondly, practice being courteous online. Again, being courteous, taking the initiative to implement that automation and letting them know that you are seeing their message, you are going to get back to them. And it's part of just being respectful. And lastly, respecting the efforts and privacy and dignity of others. And what I mean by that is when you're online or when you're speaking with a mentor or you're asking for something, don't ask for something that you can Google. There's nothing that's more disrespectful than not respecting the fact that that mentor, whoever you're working with, is really busy. They're probably more busy than you are. And by going there unprepared, that just shows that you don't have respect for their time, and you're asking them questions that isn't to the level of what they can offer for you. And that's something that's really important. And that's something that those people are really going to notice. So having respect is the first thing. Secondly, block out the noise. This is a huge one, whether it's physical, physiological, somatic, or psychological noise. That includes like music in the background, fans going on. If you have your roommates or there's kids in the back screaming, the person that you're talking to has to stop every 2 minutes to talk with you, it just looks bad upon you because you didn't plan to have the meeting in the most convenient, quiet time. And again, it just subconsciously, whether you're meaning it or not, which I'm sure most of you are not, it does show a lack of disrespect. And that's something that there is etiquette in business. That's why the video that Tanya is going to send to you guys later has these, the people that work with her letting her know the type of issues that they're having. And I think the last one is being fully present during your meetings. That one is huge. You have to turn on your camera. They have to be able to look at your eyes. You have to be able to have that nonverbal communication, and they can't do that. And you're not being fully present if you don't have that camera on. Tanya, did you have anything you want to add to that?
I just wanted to add there, so you guys will see here in a little bit a survey that we sent out to business leaders, and the absolute number one complaint was people not turning their cameras on during meetings, and number two was that background noise, not muting yourself when you need to mute yourself. Turning your camera on during a business meeting is extremely important. It would be, having your camera off is akin to, to coming to a business meeting in person in your pajamas, right? Extremely disrespectful. You lose 90% of the communication because 90% of communication is nonverbal communication. You can't see them. You can't see them. And it's extremely disrespectful in that very often people think, what are they doing on the other side, right? Why can't they pay attention to me? Why aren't they looking? Yeah. And
Right.
yeah, you'll see the rest of the survey a little bit later, but thanks.
Perfect. Emotional hijacking.
Yeah, this is actually me. So I wanted to also talk about, so part of the reason why people make these assumptions about the fact that perhaps you're doing something else, and why did I get dressed up and then this person didn't have to, and have this sort of negative thoughts, is be aware that we as human beings are prone to what's called the negativity bias. And the negativity bias essentially means that messages that were intended to be neutral are often perceived as very negative, and messages that were that you're actually trying to be nice, or you're trying to be very positive, those are just perceived as neutral. So when you, especially in writing, when you write an email to somebody and you're just using a normal tone of voice, they will perceive that as negative 9 out of 10 times. So knowing that that exists will help you when you're writing, be overly positive in all of your communication, and then also be aware that it could happen to you, and be aware of what's called emotional hijacking. When our primitive brain, the central core of our brain, takes over when we're feeling a high level of emotion, and it's almost impossible to respond at that point rationally. And when you feel like that might be happening to you when you're in an emotionally charged situation, the best course of action is step away. Don't respond to the email. Don't take the call right then. Just give yourself time to cool down and to respond logically and clearly, and in such a way that you're actually saying what you mean, because you can very quickly, we've all seen what happens online when people allow themselves to be subject to this emotional hijacking. Next slide, please.
Yeah. So this one is holding your judgment. And this one, I particularly want to kind of direct this to my fellow student founders, CEOs, or those who are in a C-suite position leading a team. It's really important that you show your commitment to hearing other people's ideas and perspectives and having an open mind. And that's really going to make sure that everybody on your team is really heard. If you don't take that initiative to really listen to them and to the people that are there, people are they're going to stop sharing their ideas with you, and they're going to stop letting you know really the necessary information that's needed to make your company go and progress. So don't have your mind fully made up before you listen to your team or listen to whoever you're leading. And if you are notorious for being that type of way and being judgmental or having your mind made up, people will not share their ideas and feelings with you because you haven't given them an opportunity to feel safe. And that's something that's really, really important, because chances are if one person on your team is thinking or feeling some way about you or about the decision that you made, 9 times out of 10, somebody else is probably thinking or feeling the same thing. And you as a leader need to be open to hearing that and not just going in tunnel visioned.
All right. So a couple more email tips, just a few things to note. This also came up in our surveys and our interviews with leaders. Have an email signature in every email. I don't care if it's a professional email that you're sending out or a personal email. Often people will not, especially in leadership positions, won't even respond to you if you send an email without an email signature. Don't be respectful of their time, and sending an email without an email signature is being disrespectful. Never send a message without reading it out loud first. This will help you to prevent, or will prevent, for the most part, most of your grammar and spelling errors, because we read at a different speed than we speak. It forces us to slow way down when we speak, and that helps us to catch those errors that we didn't catch with our eyes. Respond in a reasonable time is a hard no-go for me to go over this. You need to make sure that every single email you're responding to within 24 hours. 48 hours that needs to be the exception, not the rule. Now, that does not mean you need to address every single thing in that email within 24 hours. It means you need to say, I'm alive, I hear you, I got your email, I will work on this, I will respond whenever. Just don't ever have it where you send somebody sends you an email and you think, well, I don't know what to say right now, so I'm just not going to address it. Just 2 words, right? I'm here, right? Got it. We'll respond later is fine. Always check for grammar. Use Grammarly, right? I mean, there are tools out there that can help you avoid those mistakes. Oh, you have the slides. I keep going to change my slides there. This is a fun little part.
All right.
This one.
We're going to play a game of entrepreneur true or false. Okay. It's going to be really fun, really hard. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to type a 1 in the chat if you think the answer is true. And I want you to type a 2 in the chat if you think the answer is false. So everybody got it? 1 for true, 2 for false. All right. You save readers time by using acronyms. I want you to take 20 seconds to read this email. And I want you to tell me whether you think it's true or false. Can somebody tell me what's in the chat, Angela?
I'm seeing a lot of 2s, a lot of 2s. So thank you for.
You're right. Yeah, definitely don't use acronyms. One thing that Tanya taught me in the beginning of business is also to try to avoid using like apostrophes and really just write each word
Write out the word.
Yeah,
exactly. So you don't want to say don't, you say do not. Yeah.
Right. Using bright colors gets your point across in a fun way.
Oh, sorry. Using bright colors gets your point across in a fun way. True or false? 1 or 2?
For business. For business.
Okay, 1 or 2.
Where are we getting? Lots of.
A lot of 2s, a lot of
2s. Okay, perfect. You're right. Don't do this. I'm totally guilty of doing this in the very beginning. I'll throw myself under the bus. But then I looked at it and I was like, this is terrible. I can never do this again. Using a cute user or domain name makes you more memorable. True or false?
False. It's a lot of 2s, a lot of 2s.
A lot of 2s. You guys are doing so good. A+ across the board. Yeah. And lastly, your mentors can read your mind. Hello. Can somebody tell me down here what they think, your mentors? Just floating this to the top of your box. Nothing else included.
Tell you what? I'm sorry, tell you what?
here in the email, it says just floating this to the top of your box.
Okay, but what did you want them to tell you? I'm sorry,
Let me know what you guys think about this.
the
Do you
email?
guys see any other mistakes in here?
Anyone see any mistakes in there? Aha, Rohan said wanna. Yes, please don't write wanna. And then don't. Yep.
Perfect.
You don't wanna. Yes.
A+ for everybody. Don't make any of those mistakes. It's just not okay. It's not okay for higher level. It's not okay for business. So yes, so conversational etiquette. Listening is really important because before we can speak, we have to listen. So make sure you're listening as big as this animal's ears are. So I want you to put a 1 in the chat if you consider yourself a great listener, and I want you to put a 2 in the chat if you think you could use a little bit of work. I'm gonna type a 2. I know I can.
And Melissa, I'll answer your question at the end. Remind me if I forget. So who considers themselves a great listener? I see some 1s and some 2s.
Okay.
Kind of across the board. Yeah.
So how can you listen better? Tanya.
Okay. So one of the things that you can do, sorry for the small text here. We did have some errors. We should have fixed that. But one of the things that we can do to be a better listener is to be an active listener. So there are all of these are supported by research. We know that especially in Western cultures, it's important to make eye contact. So try as much as possible to face the speaker, to maintain eye contact. When you're doing this in a virtual environment, what does that mean? Have your camera on. Have your camera on. Be attentive, but be relaxed. Be aware that there are differences culturally in terms of eye contact and body language, and also between genders, where women tend to sit forward a little bit more when they listen, men tend to sit back a little bit more when they listen. And so be aware that that's something that happens. Keep an open mind. Try to actually picture what the speaker is saying when they're speaking it. It's easier for us to remember narrations and images than words. So by creating pictures, that helps to remember. And don't ever interrupt, because interrupting the signals that it sends are just wrong. People make assumptions when you interrupt, that you think that you're better than them, that you don't value their opinion. And even if none of these are true, people feel that way very often. And another thing that all of us, or many of us are guilty of from time to time is thinking of what we're going to say next in a conversation rather than actually listening to understand. Please, as much as possible, be aware that can happen, and try to actually understand what they're saying. Another way to help understand and active listen is to try to reword the words in your own mind. Like I said before, we listen at a different rate than we speak, and we tend to listen to about 700 words per minute we can listen to, and we can only speak about 150. So we have that extra time, which can cause us to kind of tune out. Make sure that we really are understanding. And it's a good idea to give nonverbal cues. So remember, I said about 90% of communication is nonverbal. So it's a good idea to give nonverbal cues to the speaker to let them know that you're listening. Can anybody give me some examples of nonverbal cues that you might give to a listener, or speaker rather? What kind of nonverbal cues? Nodding. Yes, nodding is one of them. What else? What else can you do?
Hand gestures.
Smiling, tilting the head, hand gestures. Yes. Anything else? Eye contact. Absolutely. Facial expressions. Yes. I think we all know that face when somebody's zoned out. I can't take this anymore. And we can also, you can make noises as well, without actually even having to say anything. Just the uh-huhs, yes, kind of, I get it, right? And it's a good idea, though, to also give that verbal feedback, things like, I get it, I understand. And it also helps to put words into your own words and then put them back to the speaker, just so they know, hey, message received. All right, next slide. There are several barriers to effective listening, and be aware of them. Some of the most common barriers to effective listening are distractions. If there's any noise in the room or outside of the room or in your head, those can all provide a distraction. So if you had things in your mind, or things rather on your mind, it can be difficult to listen. If you have and this is one of those things that the speakers said again and again and again in our surveys. If you have some kind of a background noise in a virtual meeting, boy, it's so hard to pay attention. It's so hard to pay attention. And when one person tells you that, everyone is thinking it. I promise you, everyone is thinking it. Everybody's just waiting for you to get it fixed. So that might be something like a bad camera, a whirring sound. A fan makes a lot of noise for the other people in a Zoom meeting. And so you want to make sure that all of those are taken care of. And you also want to make sure that that if there is an instance of information overload, or the person is speaking too fast or speaking with an accent or in some other way that makes it difficult for you to understand, that you really take the time to ask. You can ask them to clarify, to slow down, or just reiterate what they say it back to them. Next slide. Again, listen attentively, listen actively, and listen to achieve your goals, and listen to understand. All right, next slide.
Perfect. So now we're going to cover speaking. So what's the goal of speaking? Well, you really should arrive at a shared meaning or speaking interpersonally. So speaking interpersonally is defined as an exchange of meaning between two people. And again, the goal really should be to arrive at that shared meaning. So why should you care about that, and why should you do it? Well, if you and whoever you're speaking with arrive at a shared meaning, you're more likely to hit your goals. Why are you more likely to hit your goals? Because people are going to understand your wants and your needs. And if you and that other person are communicating and they actually understand what you want and what you need, and if you implement everything we talked about, people are going to actually want to help you because they're going to know what you want. So how do you do that? How do you arrive to interpersonal communication, and how do you arrive to a shared meaning? Well, know your intentions. Why are you there? Why are you asking that mentor to help you? Why are you asking that teammate to do this? Why are you there? And you need to know why that is. And so going in with that mindset of knowing your why is really important. And then you really want to try to encode and decode. Basically, you really want to implement meaning into everything that you say, every message that you write. Make sure that you're not sending something that is just, oh, it just popped into your head. Like really, really implement meaning. And when somebody is writing something to you, whether it's something where you're not letting emotional hijacking take over, really sit back and say, what is this person trying to tell me? And how can I extract meaning out of whatever message that you're getting, both offline and online? So for my math people out there, super hard one. You take your intentions and you divide that by really trying to encode and decode, put in meaning and extract meaning. What are you guys going to get and arrive at? Anybody know in the chat?
Intentions divided by encoding plus decoding equals.
No? Shared meaning.
Oh.
Yes, super easy, super simple. Again, it's so, so important. Really strive to do that, and your conversations will have substance. So again, put meaning into everything you do, everything you say, all the actions you do. Use empathy. I know Gwen Franco really has amazing workshops about just everything you need to know about empathy, but really try to use that and try to extract the meaning with using your empathy. And again, know your why and really sit down and think about, why am I doing this? Because it's really important. It's going to help expedite you towards your goals. So dressing etiquette.
Right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about dressing etiquette, because this always comes up when we're talking about etiquette, and this is often the most hotly contested. And really, for some people, this is meaningless. Where for others, it actually carries a lot of meaning, and that's what's important to remember. For some people, it matters a lot. And when we look at the different generational cohorts, people from different ages, people who grew up in different times and different cultures, dressing can really show respect. and can provide very valuable clues to the perceiver about your status, about your position, about your power. And so it's important, if you want to have the most power and have the most influence in a work setting, that you dress to impress. And that includes, if you, next slide, please. And that includes dressing
for your subconscious. Yeah, it's super important, because not only, like Tanya was saying, you're dressing so the other person knows that you're serious, that you've actually put in time, because why would they want to help you if you can't even put in time to get yourself decent to be on camera? But it really has an effect on you. Oh no.
Are you stuck on your slides?
Oh no, something had popped up.
Oh.
My apologies.
That's
But
okay.
your subconscious mind really associates putting on clothes with your productivity, with your confidence. So if you put on clothes that you would normally wear to the office, you're going to be more productive. And studies show that if you wear sweats and baggy clothes when you're trying to do work, your mind isn't going to take what you're doing as seriously, because it's in that relaxation mode. It doesn't want to try as hard in leggings and a t-shirt as it does when you're wearing something that's a little bit more structured. So tips for just overall attire. Collared shirts. Collared shirts are a great option. A good rule of thumb is whatever you would normally wear into the office, when it comes to online, you can take it down maybe just one notch. But collared shirts are great. You don't need to wear a jacket or a tie. If you are going to be speaking to people that are on panels or in board meetings, or you're going to be talking to investors, dress more professionally. And remember, everybody here knows everybody. So half of the people that you're talking to that are mentors, they're investors and they're judging you. At the end of the day, it's something that we as humans are wired to do, and nobody is an exception. Cardigans and lightweight jackets are also great. So that's considered the new blazer. So we're a little bit more cash now in this generation.
And on the West Coast too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that's so true. For like women or people who like more of a feminine soft look, blouses and sweaters are really great for maintaining a professional image. V-necks are very flattering. They really elongate your torso. Just keep it appropriate, obviously. Hair and makeup should remain clean. You don't have to overdo it. Just some great tips that I've learned just working in the makeup industry. You don't need to do a lot. Shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. If you really want to emphasize the way that your face looks, put a little bit of powder on your eyebrows, throw on some mascara, and do a lip tint. And honestly, you're done. That's all you really need to do. Tanya, I know you were telling me yesterday that Zoom has a basic beta testing.
So now Zoom does have some features that can actually help you look a little bit better without even wearing makeup. So there's a new feature that's being beta tested right now in Zoom that gives you lip tint. And so I don't have lipstick on, it gives me my lip tint, and it actually softens the image. So to do that, you just go into your video settings, and where it says choose a virtual background, you can click on that to get there, and that'll get you into your settings. You can look at the backgrounds and filters, and all of that's in there, so you can look your best on Zoom without even doing too much, right?
They make it so easy for you, so there's no excuse.
Right.
So again, final dressing tips: select the right colors and avoid like crazy patterns. I know as entrepreneurs, sometimes we go onto the media and we do interviews that are going to be filmed. A great suggestion that I learned from Tanya was to really implement jewel tones, bright jewel tones. So reds, greens, blues are really great options, especially if you're going to be on camera. Crazy patterns are usually very distracting. So you really think about the person you're talking to, you want them to focus on the substance of what you're saying, not distracted by what you're wearing, because that's not your reasoning for being there. Finding your light. Finding your light is so important. I mean, nobody wants to have a conversation where it's so dark, they can't even see you, they can barely see your eyes, they can see your lips moving, and it's just not acceptable. A really great option is I have a ring light here that just sits on my desk. It was $20 on Amazon, and it can hold your phone. It's super convenient. So invest in that and make sure that when you are having the light, It's pointing directly at your face. You don't want it to the side. You don't want it behind you. And just because that it's not going to do you any good. And lastly, again, you have to turn on your camera. No one's going to see all of your great dressing tips that we've taught you if you don't turn on your camera. And when you do turn on that camera, have it in a flattering angle directly at you, a little bit higher than you. Don't do it from the bottom. Nobody wants that like double chin action. It's just have it forward and you have to turn it on. Again, why should these people help you or answer your questions or take the time out of their day if you can't even take 10 minutes to throw yourself together for that meeting? It's something that's important and you have to show a sign of respect. It's just a non-negotiable. So charming etiquette, again, for those of you who are like, well, what does that mean? Business, like Tanya and I have talked about, I'm sure everyone's told you, you have to get people to like you. Being likable is really important. People want to do business with people that they like.
So I'm actually going to talk a little bit about this. So you thought high school was over, right? and popularity didn't matter anymore. Well, we actually know that unfortunately there are some, there's some truth to the fact that you need to be popular and likable to do business. Now, that said, you don't have to be overly fake, and you don't have to, you don't have to go overboard, but you can do some things that can improve the chances of people wanting to do business with you. And so these are all based on, this is all based on evidence, this is all based on research. So I teach organizational behavior and management and also a human relations class. And so there's a lot of research on this, particularly with regards to sales, right, and profitability. So there are statistics that show correlations between being likable and earning more money, achieving higher sales goals, and people tend to want to do business with people they're attracted to, people that they like. We call this referent power. People want to be around you and they want to give you the money. So all of these things in the slide here are correlated with success, including people being attracted to or liking people that are honest and keep their word. People that are unfortunately physically attractive does matter. Now, by that, you don't have to be, some glamorous supermodel, but at least clean, put together, and that goes back to the dress and looking your best, right? People tend to want to do business with people that they look up to, people that they consider experts in their field or gurus. So anything that you can do to establish yourself as knowledgeable in the field, as an expert. That's why we blog. That's why we do the, all of the different things that we do to kind of network and lift ourselves up in there so that we have that, that legitimate expert power. People do tend to like people who are like them. So unfortunately, this can lead to some really unfair practices. But it can also, if you think about it, right, you can also use this to your advantage. So that means, people will do business with people that they would also go get a drink with or play a round of golf. And so anything that you can do to form bonds with people outside of work, you're more likely to get them to work with you. Again, I think this is an unfair thing. And knowing this also, as a human being, we can kind of overcome some of these biases, but do know that intrinsically they're there. The research says that they're there. People like people who tend to be humble, people that are kind to other people. Now, this is kind of one of those things that people often don't realize, but people are more likely to give you business if they see that you already have business, if they see that you're successful. So never complain about, oh, it's been such a bad year, I don't have any money, oh, I wish I could do better, I'm having such a hard time. And think about it, think about, would you want to go to your doctor if you walked into the doctor's office and it was nobody there and nobody else went to that doctor and the doctor was complaining that they didn't have any patients? Why, right? Or eat at a restaurant where nobody goes to. So seem busy. And then also be as flexible and accommodating as possible without being a wimp, right? You stand up for yourself, but as much as possible, try to work with others, people like that. Right. Next slide, please.
Perfect. So just to recap, how do you stay likable? Well, a really important one is when you say you're going to do something, do it. Anybody who's all the interns who are on the Trendbook team, they will tell you when I onboard them, the first thing that I tell them is I will never be upset at you if you're busy or you're struggling or you don't think you're going to make the deadline
Or you don't
or you
have help.
need help.
Mm.
And never ever am I going to feel any type of negativity towards you. What I will feel negative about is if it's the day before it's due or the day of, and you're like, oh, well, I didn't do it because I needed help. And it's like, why didn't you just tell me last week or 2 weeks ago and I either would have done it or found somebody or we could have made it work. So don't be afraid of that. Trust me, no one's ever going to get mad at you because you need help. It's just not, it's just, they're not going to. And if they are, well, then I guess that says a lot about that person.
Right.
Um,
It's much
stay-
better though than excuses afterwards. Yeah.
yeah, avoid that. Like, take responsibility for what you do. And if something comes up, we understand that life happens. So say that life happened and no one's gonna say anything to you or be negative. Staying likable. Don't ask for something you can Google. This is like a huge problem. One of my interns and I joked that we should put on our resume that we're able to Google because for whatever reason, it seems like a skill. So Google it. If you're going to go see a mentor, don't go without bringing something for them to vet. Do the research on your own, show them what you've learned, and they're going to tell you whether it's right or wrong. Don't go not knowing and then expecting them to give you all the answers because it's just going to turn them off. They're not going to want to help you, and they're not going to like you, and you're not going to stay likable. And lastly, stay positive and stay understanding, especially if you're leading a team. I know there's a lot of CEOs in here, so be happy, be understanding that things happen. And if you are frustrated, try not to show it. Try to be understanding. I mean, everybody has their own emotions, but again, you never know what that person's going through. And 9 times out of 10, they're not telling you everything. So just try to be as understanding as you possibly can.
And I forgot to say this, but smiling, right? Smiling. So, smiling. There's something to be said about smiling. It can do a lot. Maybe I'll ask this to the audience. So, do you think that you can? Do you think that maybe you should pretend like you're happy when you're not happy? Do you think it's a good thing to pretend like you're happy when you're not, or do you think you should just be honest about it? And if you're sad, just say it and go with that. What do you think the research says? Should you pretend like you're happy? So I think most of you are saying yes. And surprisingly, yeah, you should. Faking happiness will actually lead to happiness. There's serotonin's released in our brain by smiling. So fake it till you make it, smile, and you'll be more likable and you'll be happier, which seems a little counterintuitive to me, but sure enough, the research says it's true. All right, next slide. All right, so this last thing I wanted to share with you, we did that online poll. We also did an online survey. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to share it with you today, but I'm going to send that to you, the link to that video. It's so great. These are the results of the online poll. We did, actually, one of the student founders here at our last meeting had talked about doing one of these reaction polls. And so we made one, and the reaction poll was asking business leaders, what bothers you the most in terms of a breach of business etiquette? Is it being late? Is it not following up, including not answering emails on time or at all? Is it the way that you dress or being informal in general? Or is it being distracted or inattentive? And this includes things like texting or not having your camera on in Zoom meetings, things like just not being that connected, right? 36 respondents voted for that inattentive, and I can't wait for you to see the actual comments that they said. The second was no follow-up. Not answering emails on time was a very big problem for a lot of people. Now, being late, look at that, only 7 people said being late, and only 2 people were concerned about the attire. So that shows how important it is to just to be present and attentive and to be responsive in the communications. All right.
Well, we want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to come listen to us. If you want to follow us on our social media accounts, they're all listed below here for you. And we'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just to hear your input. What bugs you? What bugs you? Anyone want to share?
Oh, that would be great. Yes.
You feel free to turn on your microphone and your camera.
This is Melissa, and sometimes I get frustrated with people who are on my Zoom call. We have daily Zoom stand-ups, and then I like roll my eyes and I'm like, oh God, I'm on camera. And it's like so easy to forget, especially if you're like sharing screen or something. But oh my gosh, to, like make a face or cringe or something like when someone says something and then remember that you're being viewed, that is hard to deal with, in my opinion.
You have to, being on camera means remembering you're on camera. A lot of the people told me that they wish more people would turn their cameras off and mute themselves at the appropriate times as well, Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, sometimes I've noticed this in our meetings, if the quality of the call is not so great, turning off the camera saves a lot of bandwidth. So I feel like sometimes you can maybe get a get out of jail free card with that, but I don't know, hard to say.
I wouldn't rely too heavily on that because I
Or-
feel like that's in a huge setting. Most of the time, you're usually talking with someone one-on-one. And if you both
People
are
are-
having
people are-
technical difficulties,
Oh, sorry.
it'll be verbal. So I've had that, and I've had to hang up and just call and do a voice call, and you just have to make it work. But
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut. I didn't mean
Oh, you're
to. I thought that you again, some things happen because of technology, but I was going to say, Melissa, that a lot of people are now we're savvy now. We know that excuse. We've heard it so many times. It's just like, sure. Yeah. Although I had mine set up so that it would go off when the bandwidth was too low, and it was always going off. So, you might be able to get away a little bit with that. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Oh, Melissa, you had another question earlier. I forgot. What was it? I forgot already.
Oh, if you were looking at my question, I was because I deal with logistics a lot, so I say ASAP and I say ETA,
Oh, yeah.
like
That's
the
okay.
delivery ETA is such and such. So
there are a couple of business acronyms that we do use a lot, and that's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
ASAP is one of them. ETA is another. Yeah. But you want to avoid, by and large, you want to avoid it. And if it's in a depends on how formal the written communication is. If it's in a written report, you'll want to first write it out and then put it in abbreviations if you want to use it. So,
yeah.
I mean, in parentheses to use it.
And
Any other
then
questions?
sorry, I have one more question because it actually just happened. It happens all the time, but like because there is that lag in the Zoom meeting and the technology, it'll be like silence and then we both talk and then we both silent and then we both talk. Like,
Happens all the time. Yeah.
is it always better to yield or is it better to be assertive and say your thing?
Camera helps with that so much. When the camera's on, you can see when somebody's about to talk, and then having the view onto the gallery rather than on the speaker, then you can see like the faces on there. And one thing I learned also, which is really interesting, is you can move people around. Did you guys know that? So you can grab, like, go to everybody, if you want to go to view, go to gallery view, and then move the slides around. You can put people in a different order. You can, it's actually been really helpful for me lately. You can also, in the view, you can follow the host view order so that you can see that everybody's on the same page. And so doing things like introductions sometimes, or if you're going to do speaking orders, that works. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I think we're pretty much out of time. I don't want to keep everybody over. I want to be respectful of time. That's another one. Karen, did you have anything you wanted to leave everybody with?
No, just thank you guys all for being here. Remember that we can just all strive to be better. Everybody watches and everybody talks. So just try your best and just be understanding, and remember that other people will be understanding too. Just don't be afraid to communicate, and we should all be good.
Yes, and please just do what you say you're going to do, and no excuses for me. That's the big one. I would much rather have you just say, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it, whatever. But please don't ever say I'm waiting for, or any other excuse. I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it. So anyways, that's that. Have a good one, everyone. And let's keep
Did you want to
those-
take a picture?
Oh yeah, if
Or-
anybody wants to take a picture, whoever wants to, you don't feel like obligated. Hi, Haley. But if you want to, just turn on your camera and we'll take a picture together. And now that I know to move everybody, I'll put everybody who turns their camera on together. So great. Hi, Billy. Now I can see people who are here. Hi, Ashley. Yeah. Hi, Tarlise. Nona's here. Thomas is here. Cool. All right. I think I got everybody in the same. I don't know. It's hard to do actually now that I'm trying to move all the tiles around, but maybe we have.
I wasn't able to do that actually.
So go to view, grab, and you can move them around by grabbing the
view.
tile,
Oh,
yeah, and sliding it, yeah. So Diane, I got you in there. Okay, I think I have everybody in there. If I miss anybody, I'll take another picture. But 1, 2, 3, cheese, everyone, cheese. Let's do a goofy picture, could you? All right. 1, 2, as goofy as you want to be. Wait, I have to do it again. I messed up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cheese. Good. Thank you guys. See y'all later. Bye. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope we didn't
Thank you,
sound
Karen.
too
That was
judgy.
totally awesome. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Karen.
I'm so glad. I'm really glad you guys
I liked
enjoyed
it
it.
a
Thank
lot.
you so much.